The Arctic is the most northern portion of Earth that resides north of the Arctic Circle. It consists of an ocean that is usually frozen ice, with treeless land, with frozen ground commonly called permafrost. Even though 8 countries, Canada, Russia, Norway, Sweden, Greenland, Finland, Iceland, and the United States have land in the Arctic has a small human population, which is outnumbered by the main population of fish, marine mammals, birds, land animals, some plants, and even organisms that live in the ice. For most of the year, the Arctic Ocean isn't really an ocean because it is a thick frozen sea ice, or at least that is how it used to be. Since 2000, how far snow and sea ice extends and lasts over the winter has decreased in the Arctic, and it is declining faster than it did in the previous decade. This isn't good news for the polar bear, but the shipping industry welcomes it because the Northwest Passage being unfrozen cuts down sea transportation by a lot. The Arctic ice sheets are going through rapid and alarming changes. On May 5, 2011, the Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program released a report that describes the changes in Arctic ice and glaciers over the past 10 years as dramatic and represent an obvious departure from long-term patterns. Today, the Arctic ice sheets are melting, which raises global sea levels. It also means there is less ice to reflect the sun's energy back to space, which means more of the sun's heat is retained, warming the Arctic and the planet. The Arctic is thought of as pristine, but today it isn't as pristine and pollution-free as most people would think. With only small population centers and no manufacturing, most think the Arctic is without pollution. But the Arctic shares global air and sea currents that carry pollutants and toxins from where they originated to even the most remote and unpopulated areas like the Arctic and Antarctica, which pollutes these areas to the point of sometimes creating the Arctic haze. The Arctic is affected by and contributes to global warming. Today the poles are warming faster than the rest of the planet. The last 6 years, from 2005 to 2010, are the warmest ever in the Arctic. This warming thaws the frozen Arctic tundra, and that thawing emits methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. This gets the positive feedback loop happening. The more the Arctic warms, more frozen tundra will thaw, emitting even more methane, warming the planet and Arctic even more, thawing even more land, emitting even more methane, and so on and so on. The news about polar bear survival is everywhere today. Polar bears' existence and survival depends on sea ice, which is melting, and not just melting, but like every global report states about every other environmental condition, it's melting much faster than expected. To the polar bear, sea ice is their hunting ground, where they catch seals, the main staple of their diet. But today, sea ice is forming later and melting earlier in the season, which shortens polar bears' hunting season, which means many experts believe polar bears' existence is in jeopardy. Earth's global temperature is the result of all regional temperatures. It is the job of the tropics to warm Earth, and it is the job of the poles to cool Earth. But that job is getting harder. Today the poles are warming faster than the rest of the Earth, so the poles have less cool air to regulate Earth's global temperature. So it is in humans' best interest to stop global warming, because keeping the Arctic cool is the cool thing to do to be a good global citizen.